Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started with tonight's meeting. Welcome to the Norfolk Oaks Community Council meeting for Thursday, November 16, 2017. Victor, if you could please take roll.
Of course.
Thank you.
Chair Everardo Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Beatriz Cerrillo.
Here.
Rosario Gonzalez. Linda Lopez. Rosario Lopez. Mary Martinez.
Present.
And youth member Yesenia Mendez.
Thank you. Linda told me that she was not feeling well. She's ill, so she won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We will proceed with public comment. If anybody has any comments that are not related to tonight's agenda, you get 2 minutes to talk about it. And we seem to have 2 slips here. If you want to make a comment, you can get a slip that you can fill out there by the entrance. And we can start with Maria.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Velázquez.
Buenas tardes.
Y mi caso es, venimos porque pues nos están desalojando de los departamentos.
So we're here because they're kicking us out of the apartments.
Y estamos pasando por una crisis bien difícil. Es una injusticia
So we're going through a difficult time, and it's an injustice
de que nos quieran alojar
if they want to kick us out
sin motivo o razón.
with any reason or motive.
Nos han ingresado la renta
So they've raised our rent,
y aparte nos quieren desalojar por 2 meses.
and aside from that, they want to kick us out in 2 months.
Y mis hijos me han preguntado qué está pasando, por qué nos quieren, si no hemos hecho nada malo.
So my kids ask me what's happening. You know, why is this happening? We haven't done anything wrong.
Ellos sienten frustrados por la escuela que los voy a cambiar, problemas y no puedo decirles.
They feel frustrated because of the change of school, and what can I say?
Y no sé cómo explicarles la razón, el motivo por qué nos alojan.
So I don't know how to explain, the reason or the motive as to why they're kicking us out.
Y se me hace muy difícil
So it's very
con
difficult,
los ingresos que están cobrando cada día más.
which every day they're raising prices.
Me da tristeza de que no tenga conciencia el Señor.
So it saddens me that the man doesn't have a heart.
Es complicado para mis hijos que estén sufriendo, preguntándome cada día qué es lo que va a pasar.
So it's complicated for my kids, not knowing what's going on, asking me what's happening.
Y a dónde nos tenemos que ir. Ellos están muy tristes.
Where
Y no
we're
hay-
going to go, they're very sad.
por eso vengo a manifestar mi dolor con mis hijos y notificarles esto que
And so I'm
es
here
una
to,
injusticia.
so I'm here to notify you and manifestate my pain alongside with my kids. It's an injustice.
Bueno, muchas gracias, señora.
Could you say where it's located? Location?
¿Dónde están ubicados?
529 Hampshire
529.
Avenue.
Hampshire Avenue.
It's yeah, it's 529 Hampshire. And next we have Angelica.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Angélica.
Good evening, my name's Angelica.
Yo también soy parte de ese desalojo de aquí, de los departamentos de…
I'm also part of those apartments where they're kicking us out.
Tenemos viviendo ahí aproximadamente 13, 14 años.
So we've lived there approximately 13 or 14 years.
Mis hijas son parte de la comunidad de Fair Oaks, estudiaron en la escuela Fair Oaks.
My daughters are part of the Fair Oaks community. They studied at Fair Oaks.
Y se me hace algo injusto e inhumano porque la persona esta parece como que quiere jugar con nuestras emociones.
So this is something inhumane, injustice, because that person seems to be wanting to play with our emotions.
El señor Ronald Grove,
So Mr. Ronald Grove,
él es dueño de una compañía de construcción.
he's an owner of a construction company.
A nosotros nos llegó primero una carta
So we first received a letter
en donde se nos dice que hay cambio de propietario,
where it tells us there's going to be a change of ownership.
todo va a seguir igual,
Everything's going to remain the same.
solamente que a partir del mes de septiembre se nos aumentará la renta $400
The only
más.
thing was that beginning September, the raise was going to be increased $400 more.
Estamos hablando que la carta nos llegó en junio
So we're talking about the letter, getting the letter around June.
y a partir de septiembre pagaríamos ya el aumento, que son $1,700.
And so starting September, we would pay for that rent, which would be a total of $1,700.
Y sabiendo la problemática que hay ahorita para cubrir los gastos de renta y depósito, pues optamos por pagarles sus $1,700.
So understanding how it's difficult to, pay or make a living and pay the raises, we opted to pay the $1,700.
Y optamos por pagárselos, pero resulta que en octubre me llega el desalojo.
So we paid the $1,700, and it turns out that in October, we got the letter of, we're asked to leave.
Entonces digo, primero me dice que si le cubro su renta de $1,700, me puedo quedar.
So I'm thinking to myself, he's asking us if we pay the $1,700, then I can stay.
Se la pagamos y en octubre resulta que me manda mi carta que tenemos que desalojar.
So we paid it, and it turns out we get a letter saying that in October, we have to leave.
Entonces pienso que esta persona, más que pensar en los hogares, está pensando solamente en su bolsillo.
So I'm thinking that this person, instead of thinking about, people's homes, is just basically thinking about his own pocket.
Es inhumano, ¿verdad? Y más en esta fecha, porque en lugar de estar preparando la cena para Acción de Gracias, estamos preparando las cosas para ver a dónde nos vamos
So
a
this
mover.
is inhumane because, during these times, instead of preparing a dinner for Thanksgiving, we're actually preparing our things to leave.
Y la verdad es un estrés bastante, porque si con dificultad juntamos para pagarle $1,700 de renta,
So it's very difficult, honestly, because it's a lot of stress, because we barely made the $1,700 payment.
así es, y ahora el pensar que tenemos que juntar depósito y renta para donde nos podamos mover,
And so now to think that we have to come up with a deposit and the rent to a new place where we move.
y es difícil porque yo tengo 2 hijas, una de mis hijas está yendo a la academia de policía.
So it's difficult. I have 2 daughters, one of them which is going to the police academy.
Ella precisamente se acaba de graduar de criminología y ella quiere exactamente trabajar aquí en lo que es el área, porque ella se ha dado cuenta de la necesidad que falta en nuestra área de Fair
She's
Oaks.
graduated from criminology, and she also wants to work in the community because she's realized, all of the issues that are here at North Fair Oaks.
Y pues mi otra hija ha sido tutora en clases de lectura, entonces
So my other daughter is a tutor in reading classes.
de alguna forma ellas quieren contribuir con la comunidad, dando un poco de lo que la comunidad de Fair Oaks les ha dado.
So they want to contribute to North Fair Oaks, being that North Fair Oaks has given them something.
Y la verdad yo lo único que quisiera pues que ustedes tomaran en cuenta es eso, o sea, nosotros Fair Oaks somos parte de Redwood City.
So what I want is for you to take us into consideration because North Fair Oaks is part of Redwood City.
y no pueden nada más así llegar nada más porque están aumentando todos los costos de renta.
And they can't just show up, because they're raising the costs of rent.
O el que se le presentara a ese señor la oportunidad de comprar esos edificios y pensar a futuro, puedo renovar y venderlos más caro.
Or to think that man can come in and buy those buildings and then kind of renovate and then charge.
Permítame preguntarle, señora, I would like to ask you, ¿tienen asesoría legal ya? ¿Alguien les está dando asesoría legal? Is somebody helping you with legal help?
Bueno, yo vine aquí al centro de la comunidad y ellos me refirieron con los licenciados de East Palo Alto, que son los que nos están apoyando ahorita.
So I came here to the community center and they referred us to some attorneys from East Palo Alto who are helping us right now.
Ajá. Y otra de las cosas que pienso que como humano, cuando yo voy a entregar mi pago de renta, la persona no tiene por qué molestarse y decir, ¿cuándo me vas a desocupar mi departamento?
And another thing, as a human thing, when I come up and have my rent money, I don't think that anybody should be kind of bothered and say, when are you going to have my money?
Exacto. Pienso que aparte de tener el estrés de andar buscando y el hecho que llegue el día de pagar renta y saber que le voy a ver a esa persona y que ya va a estar, ya me desocupaste, ya encontraste.
Aside from like the stress, coming up with the money, but also the stress of like having to deal with that person and deal with them and see them and have him say, when are you leaving, or you have the money, or.
Y más que nada, lo que estamos haciendo nosotros es para que ustedes se den cuenta que si ahorita somos nosotros, después va a ser toda la comunidad.
And above all, what I want you guys to realize, if it's us now, sooner or later it's going to be other.
Son los únicos que nos pueden ayudar y pueden, pues no sé, tomar cartas en el asunto en cuestión de rentas, porque creo que ya se está sobrepasando en rentas y en todo.
I think you guys are the only ones that can help us out in, question of the rents, because these things are going up.
Sí,
Pues-
muchas gracias por venir a darnos su opinión, señora.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming and giving us your opinion. Un comentario que puedo hacer al respecto es que están en buenas manos con la ayuda legal que están recibiendo, porque ahí lo referiríamos nosotros también. A comment that I would like to make is that you are in good hands by receiving the legal aid that you are getting right now. I would have a question just in case, Mike, you know of any additional help that the county can provide?
Yes, if we've got Ms. Gonzalez here, our community affairs manager. She has some more resources that she'd be happy to provide these individuals through the core agencies.
Great, thank you. Señora, si usted y la señora María pueden platicar después sobre este tipo de problemas, el condado podría tener otras alternativas para ustedes también. Entonces, por ahí platiquen con la señorita para ver si les pueden dar ayuda adicional.
Okay, pues,
Solo me gustaría agregar que su problema no es único. Hemos estado viendo muchos problemas similares con respecto a las rentas y por nuestra parte hemos estado tratando de insistirle al condado que necesitamos algún tipo de protección para las personas que rentan, para que no les incrementen las rentas tan desmedidamente. Y vamos a continuar trabajando para ver si podemos lograr algo por nuestra cuenta. Muchas gracias y buena suerte.
gracias por escucharme y buenas noches.
Buenas
Gracias.
noches. And we have another comment, a public comment from Nan.
Good evening. My name is Nan McGarry. I'm a housing fellow with Community Legal Services. I'm supporting the building of 529 Hampshire Street, which is the building that's currently facing evictions. I did want to just comment that I wouldn't have advised my clients to come here tonight if there were legal options that they had. They are facing 60-day no-fault evictions, and as I'm sure you know, as part of this community, there is no rent stabilization here, and there is no just cause eviction. And I would urge you to, in any way you can, lift up the stories of these families so that we can put political pressure, so that we can put moral pressure on a landlord who we hope will come to us today or tomorrow in the coming weeks to negotiate with these families, because they do want to stay. They were willing to pay the rent increases. One family paid, with the rent increase and the deposit, almost $4,000 in a lump sum in September, and they now have no money to go find another place. And so although I do take pride in the organization that I work for, I'm worried because the legal protections are very few. So if you in any way can lift up these voices, we would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to the first item, the Fair Oaks Library expansion update by Mr. Derek Wolfgram from the Redwood City Public Library.
Good evening, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Cerrillo, members of the Council. My name is Derek Wolfgram. I'm the Director of the Redwood City Public Library, and I just wanted to give you a brief update this evening on something that has been in the works for a very long time, and I'm hoping that we're coming close to some real progress with the expansion of the Fair Oaks Library across the parking lot here. This is a project that has actually been in the works. Next week will be my 3-year anniversary with Redwood City. It's been in the works since prior to my arrival, and so the fact that we might be getting close to doing some construction is a very, very exciting thing. And I do want to share, this is a project that has been a partnership between the City of Redwood City as the tenant in the space and the County of San Mateo as the owner of the building and the Human Services Agency. So we've all worked together on the design of this plan. We've all worked together on the financing of this plan, and I'm very excited that we're getting close. I don't think that this particular expansion that I'm going to describe to you is the be-all and end-all. I don't think we're done after we complete this. There's a lot of interest in this community in a significantly larger Fair Oaks Library that can truly have some of the spaces and services that will meet the needs of the residents here. At this point, there's not a pot of money that I've identified that will get us to that point, but it's been put into the City of Redwood City's capital improvements program as a placeholder that this is something we need to find money for in a future year. And so I hope that at some point in the future, I'll be back talking with you about a big new library. But in the meantime, we're going to have a bigger library, and so that's something. So I just wanted to give you a quick walkthrough of what the plan for the Fair Oaks Library expansion is, and to make you aware of the potential timeline for construction. I'm not positive that something will take place before your January meeting, but if everything goes very smoothly, it's entirely possible that it would. So this would be my last opportunity to address you before that happens. So I wanted to get the word out. I figured better to be a little early than to have you asking, wait, the library's closed for construction? What happened? So for people that are familiar with the Fair Oaks Library space and the Human Services Building, this is the front door where people come in. The current back of the public space of the library goes about right here. And then the area between there and this dashed line is a staff room in the back. This space behind the dashed line is currently a conference room that has been part of the Human Services Agency. The county has been kind enough to give us that space to work with. So our plan is to knock down the wall that's right here and push back deeper into the space. And I just want to give you a quick tour of what the new space will look like. Back in the very back here, we're taking the staff work area that's currently in this zone and just pushing it deeper into the building so that we can have a larger public space up front. One of the things that the Fair Oaks Library has needed for a long time is a space particularly for teenagers, because we don't have a dedicated space for them right now. And so this area that's lettered A is what we're designing as a teen space that will have its collection shelved in there. There will be some furniture. It will be a smaller version of the teen area that's at the downtown library that is very popular. We've got a space here for a little sofa and a big screen TV that will have a gaming console and also have a smart board for doing collaborative homework assignments. The Latino Community Council of Redwood City has been the funder of the technology for that space, and so we're really happy to have worked with them on that project. The next space I wanted to point out here is B is the service desk. The current service desk is in this area. It's quite large. It takes up a lot of the room and it makes the space very inflexible. So we're making a little bit smaller desks so that we can have more space for public programs and activities and places for people to sit, which is actually, I'll get to that part in a second. Area C is, you can kind of see here, it says truck. The reason it says truck is we have worked, again, with a number of funders, the Latino Community Council of Redwood City, Kaiser Permanente, Palo Alto Medical Foundation have contributed funds for us to create what I think will be a really wonderful childhood interactive area. If you've been to the downtown library, we have an area called the Baby Bay that has a lot of really interesting kind of manipulatives and activities and interactive things for children to develop early literacy skills bilingually. And for the Fair Oaks community, we've designed one that is it's designed to look kind of like an old-fashioned farmer's market truck. So there's going to be a lot of information about food options and nutrition that's part of it, as well as some fun things that you can do with the truck. You know, there'll actually be a way to turn the headlights on and some really interesting opportunities for kids to have a dedicated early learning play area. And so we're very happy about that. And then this area marked D, which is currently where the desk is. We'll have a lot of furniture there, places for kids to come for tutoring or homework help after school. But all of this furniture will be very mobile so that we can kind of push it all over to the side here so that this whole area can be opened up for programs when we have story times or performers for summer reading or any of the other activities that happen, which is the biggest thing that we're missing right now is space for human beings. We actually don't need a whole lot more space for collection in this library. What we really need is space for people to do things together. And so that's what we're working on. And then we do have a new seating area with some comfortable seating for adults here as well. The last part is that we're going to take all of these work tables that are all through the space, and they're all going to be retrofitted so that they have power. So if people have devices that they've brought with them, laptops, either their own or that they're using from the library, phone chargers that they want to plug in, we don't have a lot of places to do that now, and we'll have those throughout the space after the expansion takes place. So that's a little bit about the plan. We will, at the time that construction begins, we will move into a small room in the Peninsula Family Service area of this building. There's a small computer lab over there, if you're familiar with that. The library will, during time that we're closed for construction, which we anticipate to be probably 2 to 3 months that this renovation will take, that we will set up shop in the computer lab that's in the Peninsula Family Service area so that we won't have everything that's in the library, but we'll still have some computers, we'll still have access to library staff, we'll still have a place where people can pick up a small selection of materials. As far as the space of this expansion, right now the library is about 2,800 square feet. It'll be 3,400 square feet after we're completed. So 600 square feet is not a huge amount of space, but it is about a 20% increase over what we have right now. So we're really looking forward to that. The last step that there is at this point we've identified that we're a little bit short on what the funding is that's needed to complete the project. This is a Measure A funded project, now Measure K. We originally got the Measure A funds, and so there will be proposal to the Board of Supervisors in the near future to secure the last bit of funding that we need so that we can finish the project and get started. And as I said, if everything goes super smoothly during January or February, we'll actually be knocking down that back wall of the library and starting the construction. So that's all I have to share about the Fair Oaks Library expansion. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks for coming, Derek. Thanks for your presentation. If council members have any questions?
When you were designing this space, what kind of input did you have from the other librarians as to what they wanted to see in the space and the furniture and all of that?
Yeah, we actually had, I think it was 2 or 3 meetings where all of the county public works staff, the architect that we worked with on the design, and all of the staff members of the Fair Oaks Library were invited to those meetings. So Maria Diaz-Slocum was there, Angelica Jaimes was there, Erica Palafox was there, and we were able to involve all of them in some of the decision making about how we laid this out and what the community's needs were.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, you said you're going to expand the library. You're going to have a teen center there. Are you planning to have more employees there?
At this point, we do not have a plan for more employees. We've actually designed it so that you can't quite see from the drawing, but the teen center is here, the desk is right here, and there's actually going to be a window that's right in this area here so that the staff, I mean, they'll have to look back, but there will be good visibility for staff to be attentive to what's happening in the teen area, even if they're not actually stationed in there. Again, that's something that I would love down the road, to have the opportunity to expand the staff, but right now we don't have the resources to do that.
And also, I see that sometimes it's not about the expansion, but I see that sometimes people from the library go to schools to read with the kids in some schools, and I like it. But I see most of the time I don't see that people go to special ed classes. I don't know if it's possible. I would like to see that they come to share with special education classes.
So for the students that are in special education?
Yeah, because I see that they come sometimes to read with the kids in kinder or preschool, and I don't see them too often, or I didn't see them in special education classes.
Yeah, we've just recently started a program at the downtown library, literally probably within the last 3 or 4 months, that's called Hand in Hand, Mano and Mano, that is designed for especially kind of preschool age students, either on the autism spectrum or who have different developmental disabilities or communication disorders. And this has been a new pilot program that we've just started at the downtown library, but it's been incredibly successful. So I expect that we will plan to expand that to other locations as we can, because I think it's really important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And also, do you have Chromebooks for take home?
Almost. We have iPads that can be checked out to take home. We've just launched having Wi-Fi hotspots, so that if people don't have internet connectivity at home, they can check out a Wi-Fi hotspot that they can take home and use with that iPad. And we're actually we have some Chromebooks that are for in-library use right now, and we're actually in the process of getting the Chromebooks ready that will be for people to take home.
Thank you. And also one last comment. I see that we here in North Fair Oaks, mostly the county is whom administers everything, right? Like We have sheriff, no police. So mostly the county is who administers everything. So I would like to see that North Fair Oaks Library have services, the same services or programs like the county libraries. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to see that.
Yeah, at this point, because the library is literally right on the border between Redwood City and the county, the county libraries have contracted with Redwood City Public Library to provide the services rather than providing them themselves. And so that's something that I suppose the San Mateo County Libraries JPA could consider operating it themselves rather than contracting with us. I do know that I don't believe they have any libraries that are in unincorporated parts of the county right now. They only have libraries in cities, and that's sort of part of their structure, that the city builds the library and then they run it. And so if that were the case, the county would have to be able to provide a facility, and maybe down the road when we're talking about building a new library, that's an option. But I think at this point, I expect the contract for service will continue, that Redwood City will be the provider, but we try to do a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So for the new library, will it be in the same location when the new one is built?
That's kind of wide open.
Oh, okay.
There's a plan. I think you guys have done a study session at one point on the Middlefield Junction plan that was kind of looking at this entire area with the library and the community center and the child care center and extending down to the health clinic, kind of re-envisioning that whole area. At this point, looking at what money was available and what spaces were available, the priority for that project went towards taking the area that's behind the health clinic, the land that's vacant right now, and working on affordable housing as the primary use of that land, just because there's such a great need. There was some talk at one point about a possibility of the library being there, but I think that the funding for affordable housing is going to be available sooner than funding for the library. So that will go forward, but there is some talk about the child care center could be in that complex, and that might free up some additional space, right next door here, that the library, the community center, and that building where the child care is now could be, we could do something creative with a joint facility that's right close to this site. But if there were land somewhere and money to build a building, I'm not going to be incredibly picky as long as we have something that's really accessible to the people who live here. I would be happy to build a new library wherever we need to build a new library.
Thank you. I have another question. When you were talking about the new children's area, I think around D, you said something about like a farmer's market.
Yes.
Type truck. Can you explain that a little? I'm a little confused on that.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up a picture. I guess I can pull one up on my phone and pass it around.
Yeah. Can I see that?
So I'll come pass around and show you. So it's two-dimensional. It's on a wall. If you're familiar with the library, this wall right here is a purple wall that has a couple of Macintosh computers sitting in front of it. That's where this farmer's market truck is going to go. So it's actually going to look kind of like a full-size truck, but mostly two-dimensional. It only comes out from the wall about a foot. And then all along the back of the truck, there are a lot of activities that are both about early literacy and food. So there will be a little spinner with different foods that are, happy face, neutral face, or sad face, depending on whether they're healthy options or not healthy options. There will be other things with little pegs to match the name of the product or the vegetable to the shape of the vegetable. So it'll be based on the idea of a truck, but it's really an early literacy development tool that also has that nutrition component built in. So, and I'll pull up a picture on my phone I can pass around.
Okay, it's a good theme, having the food, the health, nutrition, everything. A little bit stereotypical. I would have liked to seen something more of a theme, like maybe outer space or like hospital or doctor or something kids can really look up to something to aspire than just, we get it, food is very important and nutrition is very important, but if we want our kids to succeed and think outside the box and just, food,
Right.
that's just something, that's just my thought.
Okay, no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Does anyone else have a question? I do have a couple of questions, Derek. First one is, when did you say that the project would start the renovation? Did you say January?
Probably the earliest it would start is late January. But it's depending on the approval timeline with the money that's going before Board of Supervisors, that could push later. I'm not 100% sure, but I can certainly communicate to Victor so that the information can get to you when that's happening. And obviously, once we have details, we'll try to do a big public information effort with signs and pictures of things in the library and get some flyering out in the community and use our social media, kind of try to use all the tools at our disposal to get the word out so that people aren't surprised. I know I have heard concerns before about if the library closes for construction that that it won't reopen, that this is some trick to close the library or something, and I can assure you that's absolutely not the case. This is something that I believe in this library passionately as, absolutely critical to what we do for this community. And that's the reason that we added Saturday hours since I've been here. We really want this community to be, or this library to be a strong resource for the community. So if there's any way you can help me get that word out, if somebody comes and finds the library closed one day, we'll have bilingual materials on the door and on the book drop and everything to let people know, but to reassure people that our intention is to make it better, not to take it away.
Yeah, thank you. And the other question I had, and this you may not necessarily have an answer readily available, but eventually I would like to see if the library use has increased over time, if it usually gets more people than before, and what sort of ages, what sort of visitors have increased, if they have, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have real specific information. I can share in general terms that the Fair Oaks Library is part of a trend with the downtown library and with libraries in general that I don't know that they're being used less, but they're being used differently. The amount of things that we're checking out, the amount of books and DVDs that people are borrowing has been going slowly down actually over several years. But the amount of people that are coming to the library for activities and programs and classes and workshops is increasing at the same time. So we're seeing a different sort of use, which is why, as we're expanding, we're not adding more bookshelves, we're adding more space for people, because that's becoming almost as important a part of our mission as having items for people to borrow.
Also, in terms of funding, I wonder if you usually go outside, the normal revenues, county or city revenues, to commercial entities, some of the big organizations around the Bay, because I know that many of them have community representatives that are willing to work with communities such as North Fair Oaks. And given the case, if they know about a project that they would like to support, I'm pretty sure that they would be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, and we do, the library has a Redwood City Library Foundation, which is an organization that does a lot of our grant seeking and talking to individual and corporate donors. And we've actually tried to put more emphasis on things that are happening at the Fair Oaks Library. The Farmers Market truck is actually entirely funded by either private or group donations. The technology for the teen space coming from the Latino Council with the funds they've raised from the Kermés event that they have every year. We actually have, just recently, we had a series of coding workshops that were done at the Fair Oaks Library that actually people from the company Equinix approached the library and said for their volunteer service month they were interested in doing something, and they asked if they could give us Chromebooks, and we said, yes, you can give us Chromebooks. And they said they wanted to offer some coding workshops for children, and so we took them up on that, and we made sure that that happened at Fair Oaks rather than kind of, I think for a period of time, the default position was that everything happens at the downtown library, and we're trying to not only bring the good things from the downtown library to Fair Oaks, but also do some unique things like those coding workshops with Equinix at Fair Oaks. So I think that yeah, we're trying to be very creative in getting the funds and the resources from whoever we can.
Oh, great. Appreciate that. And then my last question, for which you may not necessarily have an answer now, is what can we, the council, the North Fair Oaks Council, do to help you, to achieve your goal, funding or whatever. If there's anything in your mind that you think we could do to twist the arm of the county, or even the city of Redwood City, we have a good relationship with them,
right?
And I think that we could communicate. If I mean, any help that you need, please let us know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the first thing that pops to mind is if you do have connections, if you're if you know people at various funding sources and you want to introduce me to them, I'm happy to take that meeting. I should also mention, I meant to mention and forgot that we're working on a proposal to put in for the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which will also have a significant component for the Fair Oaks Library as well as downtown in the Chan Zuckerberg proposal that we're working on, that's very oriented towards not only technology equipment but STEM classes for the youth in the community. So yeah, if you know people that can help, introduce me, and just as much as you can lift up the message to the community about the good work that we're doing. I think that libraries are an interesting business that even though we don't get more money the busier we get, we're happier the busier we get. That's kind of the business that we're in. That's what we want to do. And so as much as the community is taking advantage of what we have, that makes us happy.
That's great.
So,
yes, just
Rosario.
Yeah, just one comment. I like how they had the materials before. They had them by language, Spanish in one section, English in other section. They have them in sections. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to see it in section. Sometimes when I go to look for something, it's more difficult for me to look into all. Everything is English, Spanish mixed.
Right.
So I don't know if it's possible.
No, that's good feedback. And as we're doing the expansion, we will be shifting some things around. So it's a good opportunity to look at whether it makes sense to go back to doing it that way. So I will work with the staff who are doing that and make sure that your suggestion gets heard.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the last thing I'll just mention, I put on the back table, we have a monthly calendar of events that are happening just at the Fair Oaks Library. So there's some on the back table, and please help yourself. And if there's any left over, please share them with people that should have them.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Rodriguez, if I may just add, we really value the relationship that we have with Redwood City and this library, and Mr. Wolfgram's vision and passion and energy around this has just been a real asset to this community. We thank him so much for his service for the last 3 years, and we really look forward to getting this remodel and modest addition going. So I just wanted to personally thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks very much. And I wonder if there are any public comments about this issue. No. In that case, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It'll be the presentation on the safe routes to schools and stormwater improvement grants by Brent Lieberman from the Office of Sustainability.
Hey everyone, my name is Brianne Lieberman and I work for the County Office of Sustainability, and I am here tonight to tell you about a grant we've applied for at Fair Oaks Community School for safe routes to school and green infrastructure improvements. So this grant program was funded in part by CCAG, which is the City County Association of Governments. It is a joint powers agency which is made up of all of the cities in the county and the county itself. And they had $2 million total in grant funding, which was available to all the cities and the county. This program was to fund improvements that really had two components to them. The first is a safe routes to school component. So they were hoping for programs that funded anything that would have pedestrian or bicyclist safety improvements near schools in the county. So the picture on the left shows one example. A typical pedestrian or bicycle safety improvement is to do something like this bulb out, and this shortens the distance that pedestrians need to travel across the intersection. Other typical examples include just restriping the crosswalk, making it more visible, and adding flashing lights as well. So this photo on the left is actually from near Laurel Elementary School in the city of San Mateo. So that's the first component of a project this grant was funding. The second component of the grant program was to include a stormwater treatment component. And this photo on the right shows that. So one example of a good stormwater treatment component is to use something like green infrastructure. And green infrastructure is really using any natural materials to give stormwater runoff or rainwater a place to soak into the ground. So in this example on the right, this is actually at Donnelly Avenue in Burlingame, so it's in our county. And it's a rain garden that gives that water a place to soak into the ground. So this grant program funded infrastructure improvements with two components, that safe routes to school component and the stormwater treatment component. So my primary role with the Sustainability Office is to handle all things stormwater, and that's something I'm really passionate about. So I wanted to tell you all a little bit more about why stormwater is so important. So stormwater is runoff, rainwater that soaks, it runs across our landscape. And a common misconception is that this water is treated, that it goes to a wastewater treatment plant. The truth is it doesn't ever get treated. So when it runs across our landscape, it can pick up pollutants like pet waste, motor oil, fertilizers from the lawn. That water goes into storm drains, and then it's brought out to our local rivers and then ultimately to the bay. So any pollutants on the surface will go right out to the bay. And that's why it's so important that we use any opportunity we can to make that water a little bit cleaner. And that's why things like this green infrastructure, this rain garden, really have a benefit because they give that stormwater a place to soak into the ground, and then the plants in there will treat that stormwater and make it a little bit cleaner. So we ultimately decided to apply for this grant for improvements near Fair Oaks Community School, and there are two reasons why we chose this school. The first was because we saw a great opportunity for improvements for bicycle and pedestrian safety. And the second reason we thought this school made a great candidate was because there are flooding issues in North Fair Oaks, and many of you might have even seen that today. So just a little bit more information about the safety aspect. I found this data from the Transportation Injury Mapping System, and I found that since 2011, 49 collisions involving pedestrians and bicyclists have occurred within a half mile of Fair Oaks Community School. So that really jumped out at me as showing that there's definitely a need for more safety improvements. The other information I found was more about the flooding issue. So this was taken right from the North Fair Oaks Community Plan, and the report showed that during major storm events, excess flow ponds in the low-lying areas of North Fair Oaks. So we ultimately decided to apply for the grant for Fair Oaks Community School, and our grant application included 2 improvements. The first intersection we focused on was Fair Oaks Avenue and Oakside, and in this photo, just to give you some context, this street is Fair Oaks Avenue, and then this one is Oakside, and Fair Oaks Community School is back here. So this shows a conceptual design of after. And what it shows is using green infrastructure or a rain garden in all the green areas here. What this looks like right now is just pavement. So we thought this would be a great opportunity and some space for us to put in an area where stormwater could be treated and have a place to settle. So the way it would work is these blocks would be curb cuts and water would flow into this treatment area from here and from here. And we also propose to restripe this crosswalk to add some of those pedestrian improvements. The next intersection that we looked at was a mid-block crossing of Oakside Avenue. So this being Oakside Avenue and then the school being back here. And this intersection we saw needed some improvements because this is a driveway of the school and there's typically a lot of traffic turning out of the driveway. Sometimes cars are even parked in the driveway. So this is just a photo taken from the school a few weeks ago. And what we are proposing to do is move this intersection about 10 feet to the left on this photo, restripe the crosswalk, and then add flashing lights with a button that can be activated. So this intersection really focuses on that pedestrian and bicyclist safety improvement. So we applied for the grant last month, and I actually just found out last week that the review panel recommended we receive $250,000 in funding for this grant. So, and actually this afternoon it got approved by 2 different committees of CCAG. One was the Transportation Committee and the other being the Stormwater Committee. So the next step in the process is in December, the Board of Directors for CCAG would approve these projects. And if our project did get approved to receive funding, we would start the final design and complete it in the spring of next year. The next step would be for us to bid the project, and that would occur roughly in the spring of 2019, and then construction would occur during the summer of 2019 when students are out of school. So what I want to put out there is that we still, if we do receive the grant funding, there's still some room to tweak the design a little bit. Like I said, that final design occurs in the spring of next year. So if you have any feedback, any input, I would really appreciate it. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Brianne. Council members, if you have any questions, please.
I don't have any questions, but I do work at Fair Oaks Community School, and this sounds great. You're welcome to come, and if you want to do a group with the parents or, yeah, the parents mainly, or community members, you're always welcome to come, and I can give you my information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think when I concur with what Mary is saying. We need to have the people who walk the sidewalks, especially today in the rain. They know exactly where all the puddles are and all of these, obstructions are, just to getting their children here safely on time. So I would encourage you to have community feedback as you proceed forward with your plan.
Definitely. One thing I will add is part of the reason we decided on these 2 intersections was through a Safe Routes to School evaluation, which happened a few years ago. And they put a report out with recommendations of the highest priority intersections. So we started with those ideas.
I do have a couple of questions and suggestions. The first idea that comes to my mind is that this is a great project, and but I think that along the area surrounding the school where you're going to, going to be implementing the natural water filtration areas. I think it would be great to install some trash cans for the public areas, because otherwise those water filters are going to become, filled with trash. So particularly because it is a public school, there's a lot of people congregating around that area. So it would be great if there was, at least a couple of trash cans in the surrounding areas. Then the other thing is that this is a mixed zoning area that has a weird component of residential with light industrial. And so parking is, of course, an issue. And I think it would be nice, if it is possible at all, to review some of the parking areas that allow big trucks to park in the immediate streets surrounding the school, just because it is large trucks that those are the ones that usually block the view, not only for other vehicles to get by, but also for pedestrians. And perhaps this is one of the reasons why, the high incidence of accidents that you found out about. And of course, might be entirely separate from the project that you are suggesting, but if you can take that component into consideration, it may be helpful in some way. And what else? I think that's about it, other than just underlining again that it would be a good idea if you had at least this same presentation that you gave here, if you could give it to the to the Fair Oaks school, so that they can invite the school administration and some of the parents, if not all, and so that they can perhaps have better suggestions or give you some ideas as of what would be essential to have.
I think that's a great idea. And going back on the trash issue, putting trash cans is a good idea. These green infrastructure improvements do need regular maintenance over time, so we will make sure that we have staff coming out there and clearing trash and debris. But I mean, the more we can keep trash out of them, the more easily they'll be maintained. Yeah. And in terms of the big trucks, I agree that is one of the major obstacles for viewing pedestrians and impeding safety. In these two intersections, I'm not sure how much we can keep trucks away, but I think that's something good to keep in mind when we're looking at other improvements in this area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions from council members? Thanks very much for your presentation.
There's one more thing I want to add. I put Adopt-A-Block flyers on the table over there, and then you received them. This is another program that my office is working on, and we are launching this program. It is essentially a volunteer program where individuals or community groups can sign up to adopt a block in their neighborhood. And the goal really is to keep their neighborhood safer and cleaner. So we will provide all supplies for regular cleanups, and then the residents really would help beautify their communities. So there is information on how to sign up on the flyer. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. And if there is any public comment about this issue, please let me know. I don't see any. So we'll move on to the next presentation. This is about the North Fair Oaks Garbage and Recycling Franchise Agreement and Rates by Lillian Clark from the Office of Sustainability and Jola Marians from the South Bay Waste Management Authority.
Sorry, I'm a little smaller. Good evening, members of the council, staff, and the community. My name is Lillian Clark. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight to discuss the 2018 garbage and recycling rates in North Fair Oaks and the services that you get and the franchise agreement with Recology. So I'm going to start off with a little background information. The county manages two garbage and recycling franchise areas. One is North Fair Oaks, and the other 9 areas are part of the area we call the county franchised area. So North Fair Oaks is number 7, and then you can see all of the other numbers which indicate the county franchise area. These 2 areas, North Fair Oaks franchise and the county franchise area, are part of the Joint Powers Authority, referred to as the South Bay Waste Management Service Area, or called SBWMA. And many of you will remember Joe LaMariana. He used to work with us. He is now the executive director of this agency. The county's role in the SBWMA is we set rates annually. We ensure the contractor, whether it's Recology or the folks who are operating the transfer station and recycling or Shoreway Environmental Center, and our 2 service areas, making sure that we have the services that we asked for in our franchise agreements. We make recommendations and conduct special events, such as the shredding event we held up at Tower Road this year. And we plan to have another shredding event this year in North Fair Oaks at the community center. And probably we're going to schedule another one at Shoreway as well, because they seem to be a very popular event. We manage customer feedback, so I get lots of calls during the year about folks asking about their services. And we are 1 member of this 12-member agency. Now, in this annual rate review process, as a member of the SBWMA each rate year, the SBWMA conducts a rate setting process for the services you receive. And through this process, the contractors conduct an annual audit of revenue and costs for the service areas. So they look at what were the revenues last year, and they do a projection moving forward of what they think they will be for 2018. The contractor, when Recology submits their rate application report to the SBWMA, they apply all of the indexes that are commonly used in industry, such as the Consumer Price Index. And in that Consumer Price Index, there's always a category for labor, whether labor should be increased or fuel costs should be increased, and that's what they apply to in their rate application report to the SBWMA. And then the SBWMA allocates these costs to the 12-member agencies. And we, again, are one of those member agencies, so we get a portion of that allocation. And then the county, we take it a step further and we work with a consultant. And we have that consultant do a little bit more in-depth study of the rates that are proposed in our 2 service areas. And we look at the rates over a longer period of time. And then we make final recommendations and have that approved by the Board of Supervisors. So for the 2018 rate year for North Fair Oaks, we propose a 5% increase for residential dwelling cart, and a similar rate increase next year is needed. The commercial rates will remain flat. And the reason for the rate increase is we did our analysis of the rates, and we looked at both the commercial revenue and the residential revenue, and we determined that on the residential side, we weren't bringing in enough revenue to cover all of the costs of the services that are currently provided to residents in this area. And commercial accounts are generating enough revenue for the services they get. The other thing that we looked at is we're trying to align rates to the actual costs of services through the end of the contract period, which will be in 2020. And we don't want to be at the end of this contract in 2020 owing a lot of money. And what we've experienced previously when we changed to Recology services, what we did was we took a proactive approach, and we decided that we were going to do smaller incremental rate increases until the end of that year or the end of that contract period, so that we weren't hit with this big balloon payment, as most folks would look at this as. And we were the only area in the SBWMA, we were the only jurisdiction that actually did not owe Allied Waste at the end of the contract period. In fact, Allied Waste owed us money because we took an additional step to make sure that we were increasing rates to cover all our costs. So our areas were not in the newspaper like many of the others. Thankfully. And so that's kind of our goal here. Our contract is going to be expiring in 2020, and we want to make sure that we catch up, we get the rates to where they need to be, so that when the new contract moves forward, or the amendment to the contract, which Joe will talk about later, you know, we always anticipate there'll be a differential in rates, so we want to make sure we're caught up to that, so we don't have a huge 20% rate increase. So this is currently where we're at. Residents in North Fair Oaks, the residential properties are typically billed on the tax roll, and it's a minimum level of service. We set this up to reduce illegal dumping in the area. So you get either one 64-gallon cart or you get two 32-gallon carts. If you choose to have one 20-gallon cart or two 20-gallon carts or one 32-gallon cart, it's the same rate. But currently, if you look at the 64-gallon carts, the majority of the residents have them. There's 2,397 customers that are using the 64-gallon cart. The current rate is $29.45 per month, but it's on the tax roll. But the current cost to service those 3 bins, that means your organics bin, your recycling bin, and your garbage bin, is actually $49.27. That's the actual cost to service all 3 carts. So we propose to increase the rates another 5% to get them up to $30.93, which is about $1.48 more per month, or $17.76 a year. Now here's the good news. So what kind of services do you get for this $30? You get residential weekly curbside collection of the garbage, recycling, and organics. The commercial, they get weekly collection of garbage and recycling. You get the disposal fees and the handling costs, because when Recology picks up your carts at the curb, they then take it down to Shoreway, and those materials all need to be processed and sent to the appropriate facilities. Garbage goes directly to Ox Mountain, and organics and recycling go to other facilities for processing. Except, I should retract that, recycling is sorted through at the Shoreway Center, and then those materials are brought to other facilities. You also get 2 free on-call bulky item collections each year, so you can call in and they can come to your house and pick up bulky items. You also can put out used motor oil filters, and once a year they'll pick up any of the holiday trees that folks put out at the curb. And then we do the annual confidential document shredding once a year. And because we have one franchise agreement, we typically send out the notice, and we've been alternating the 2 locations. So one year we make it closer to the county franchise area, the other year we make it closer to North Fair Oaks. But because it's gaining in popularity, we actually have proposed that we may have an event in each area each year, because it's just so popular. The other thing that we get is at Shoreway, you can drop off any amount of recycling that you want for free. So as a resident, you can drive through and bring it. You can bring your latex paints. You can bring mattresses. So please tell your friends, bring your mattresses to Shoreway. They will accept them for free. You can bring your cooking and motor oil, and during the holiday season, lots of folks seem to deep fry their turkeys. Well, that cooking oil from that turkey can be brought to the transfer station, and they will process it. You can bring electronic waste to the recyclery for free. And you can now bring small appliances like the blender, the curling iron, the hair dryer, the toaster, the iron. All those things can be brought to the Shoreway Environmental Center for free. You don't need to put those in your garbage cans. And now I'd like to introduce Joe from the SBWMA, and I'd also like to introduce Gino Gasparini and Mike Kelly. And Mike and Gino are from Recology, and Joe, again, like I stated earlier, is from the SBWMA. Yep, there you go. This one.
Great. Oops, I went too far. That was it. Okay, great. Good evening, folks. How are you doing? Nothing's more exciting than talking about garbage rates. But it's nice to, on an annual basis, get a chance to take a look at what the scope of services are. So good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow council people. Beatrice, it's so nice to see you continuing to serve your community. And Mr. Callaghy, Madam County Council, Victor, great to see you. I had the privilege of making these presentations for 10 years in front of you, so it really touches my heart to be back here. New capacity, but still very much engaged and still very much representing the citizens of North Fair Oaks and the interest. So I was asked to talk about the new contract term that is about to come into play. So I want to be clear, it's not a new contract, it's a restated and amended version of the current contract. So the current contract was for a 10-year period from January 1st of 2011 to December 31st of 2020. And in this current contract, there's a section in it that says that the SBWMA, at the direction of its board, will meet with Recology, the contractor, and talk about what happens after 2020 when the contract expires. So that's what we did. For the last year and a half, we have worked very closely with the Recology team and some other stakeholders in a very time-consuming and exhaustive process. One of the things that I think made it very easy in some ways, although we had our challenges along the way, was we got a lot of really positive feedback about Recology and how they conduct themselves in the community, both in terms of taking care of the garbage and recycling, which is their core duties, but also just as a good corporate citizen, very engaged in the community. They got very high satisfaction marks everywhere we got feedback. We conducted some surveys and the response was off the charts. They got in the 90th percentile in terms of customer satisfaction, which is a really strong feedback. So my kudos to you folks and your staff. A really good job. And by the way, there's about 310 of them that work out of this Shoreway site. So our agency, through you and your partnership, owns the Shoreway site in San Carlos. It's 16 acres. So we have a transfer station, we have a recycling center, and then there's all the property where all of those trucks are. I guess there's about 140 trucks or so that are based there. The mechanical support, all that activity, about 310 really good jobs, and there's another 75 jobs to run the actual transfer station and the recyclery, and that's with another contract we have called South Bay Recycling. So that's it. So we went through this entire process, and it resulted last June in our board agreeing on a model agreement that we are now going out to each one of the 12 member agencies, and the county is one of them, to get agreement. So the Recology team, myself, and each one of the 12 member agencies are having concurrent meetings on customizing that agreed upon contract template and the cost associated with that for the year 2021 to have it customized for your jurisdiction. So because you guys are part of the county, one of the two county franchised areas, we're here tonight explaining how we got to that place. So with all of that said, the end result is, as of tonight, we have 3 of the 12 member agencies have approved their version. The city councils of San Mateo, San Carlos, and Hillsborough have all approved theirs. So there's 9 more to go before this becomes officially official. And we're expecting that to happen just after the holidays, the way it's going. Foster City will be on Monday night, and Redwood City will be the week just before Christmas. So we're on a very good track on that. So again, we're out here trying to explain the process to you guys. I should also mention during this process, a special subcommittee was formed by the board to manage this process. So I was in charge of the negotiating team, and there were many folks on that team. But what we are calling the FAX committee, FAX, is really a shortcut for Franchise Agreement Extension team. And I think it's notable to talk about the 5 folks that were on it representing your interest. The first one was the County of San Mateo's Department of Public Works Director, Jim Porter. And I think Jim's been out here from time to time talking about projects over the years. So he was our chair. The vice chair was Melissa Stevenson Diaz, the city manager of Redwood City. Also, there was a representative from East Palo Alto, the finance director, the Department of Public Works Director from Belmont was on the committee, and also the city manager from San Mateo. So we felt it was a very good representation of all the member agencies there. So we went through the process, we made the recommendations, and we're now out in front of the elected bodies looking for their approval moving this forward. So when we actually accomplish that, then we'll be in contract from the year 2021 to 2035. It is a 15-year term, which is a very long term for a contract, but it got a lot of analysis and vetting when we were going through the process, and there were some very important cost advantages to taking a little bit longer term. Usually these contracts are in a 10-year term, but this one had some very important benefits by going to 15. So, so let's see. I think I'd be happy to take any questions now if you have them, or routed towards Lillian, but we wanted to just talk a little about the process. So any thoughts?
Council members, if you have any questions, please ask them. I do have a couple of questions. The first one is, so the increase, the 5% increase is a little bit counterintuitive because it's only to the residential side of it rather than the commercial, which for some reason in my mind I see the commercial side of it producing more discards than the residences. So I'm not sure if that makes sense.
So again, when we looked at the 2 rates, we looked at what were the costs of services to provide collection for all of the commercial properties. And we looked at the cost to provide services for all the residential. So those are the single family up to 4 units and some of the other mixed multifamily dwellings. And commercial actually is bringing in a lot more revenue. And your actual cost should be $40. Those costs for collection were actually generated by the SBWMA and Recology data. So they looked at our current rates, they looked at the current cost to provide these services for residential accounts, and they provided us the number of where we should actually be if we were actually paying for the cost of service for all 3 cards. Now, I want to remember, you know, the one thing that you're getting that the commercial customers aren't getting, commercial customers have to pay extra for the green card. They get a reduced rate, they get 25% off, but they don't get all 3 cards. The commercial customers only get a garbage bin and recycling bin. Essentially, that's what they're paying for. So what I want you to think about is when you're in your home, you're getting 3 trucks coming to your house once a week, whereas these commercial customers are probably only getting 2 trucks. So there's definitely a difference in the labor costs associated with a commercial route versus a residential route. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's more obstructions too, if you think about a residential area with cars parked and bins everywhere. I mean, a commercial customer typically has it in their parking lot in the back. It's easy for the driver to get in and out, whereas residential routes are a little more difficult, especially where you have a high density of housing and lots of cars. Takes longer to do the route.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the information that you shared with us available online?
The rates will be available online, and there's actually links on our website at the Office of Sustainability, and I can email you that. We have a new website. We used to be recycleworks.org, and we just recently converted to the Office of Sustainability, and we have a link under solid waste. But it's a little bit longer than that, and so if I wrote it down here, you probably wouldn't be able to copy it all. So I'll send it to you separately if you want more information about the rates. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was particularly interested in having the list of elements that we get as services. That you had a slide that listed, what
all the
what
services we get.
gets.
Oh, great! Yeah, and actually, I can get you some brochures too if you'd like. That has all the services.
That would be great.
Sure. Sure.
And then my last question was so the way things work. In the sense of collecting recyclables and garbage has evolved over time. So I wonder if you guys are working under the same model, continue on it, or if it is changing to reflect those changes. Like, before people wouldn't recycle, so everything was going to the trash. Nowadays, a lot of people do recycle not only greens, but also, cardboard and paper, which does not produce a lot of garbage anymore, what we call garbage. I know that other countries are incentivizing citizens by charging actual trash by weight, so that you're not incentivized to produce, heavy loads of garbage, and you try to recycle as much as you can, so that you can pay less. So my question is along the lines: if your models of working are evolving accordingly as well.
Well, I think two things are occurring. I mean, the recyclable markets are always changing. And I think for a long time there, we were pretty lucky because we were able to send most of our recycling overseas to China. However, I will tell you what's been happening recently. We've actually seen a change in the market. And the reason for the change is China is now banning, or they're standing by their ban of accepting materials that are imported into their country unless it's super, super clean. Because most folks have been sending all their recyclables to China to be processed and put into new materials. So there's actually been a decline, and they just released a report today, and Joe at the SBWMA meeting today probably spoke to this. But so we always have to be careful because this industry is market driven. So if we decide to collect bags, we have to make sure we have a stable source that can because once you start collecting it, residents expect you to always collect it, correct? And so it's really difficult to take something out of the area that you're collecting. So we always look for new materials that we can add, and like the small appliances was something that I worked with Shoreway to say, hey, we're getting a lot of hair dryers out on the curb in North Fair Oaks. Is there a way that you could collect these? So, they're always willing to look at this, but, the more materials, there has to be markets for the two. Now, as for the paying portion of it, years ago, there used to be a system called pay-as-you-throw, and a lot of folks, it was kind of, the EPA was kind of promoting that, pay-as-you-throw, and then that's kind of waned in the U.S. in recent times, because what it does is it requires the trucks to all carry scales and the drivers to be accurate. And I think then it increases your labor costs. So, you know, you could be looking at $80 for your garbage can because it's taking the driver a lot longer to service that account, to weigh it and log it and report it. And yeah, so
Okay.
there's always a cost.
Yeah. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? And if there are any questions from the public about this issue, which I don't see any, so in that case, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Good night.
And Victor, do we have any supervisor's report tonight?
No, not tonight, unfortunately.
Okay. How about county manager's report?
Just to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving, and we won't meet in December. Happy holidays to all of you. I hope when you get back in the new year that our parking lot will be open and operational. So we look forward to that.
Great. Thank you. Any council member reports? Beatrice, or anything to mention? Yesenia?
Nothing.
Nothing? Nothing, Mary? Nothing going on? Okay. This time you're not having the, you had a
Crab feed?
crab feed
Fundraiser?
last year or something like
Yeah,
that.
we'll have it in February.
Oh, in February. Okay. You'll have time to
Yeah.
to announce that. I guess so Victor, what is the process for announcing the council seat that is going to be open from Melinda?
Currently working with Irving Torres on that.
Oh, okay.
From Sarah Slocum's office. And I will get in touch with Sherry Goldstein from she's one of the clerks of the Board of Supervisors for the county. And she told me to get in touch with her once we're announcing the seat. They'll post it online. We'll post it online. And we'll start looking for a replacement. I think we have 2 seats to fill.
That's right, yeah.
Second one.
But we'll definitely get on that into the new year.
The alternate youth member.
Oh, okay. And Melinda.
Very well, thank you. And with that, if I can have a motion to adjourn the meeting from anyone?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
And anybody second?
Second the motion.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much and happy holidays to every one of you.